Call this meeting to order. Rice County Executive Committee. Please take the roll.
Al Barkstrom,
Here.
Doug Erickson,
Here.
Brian Ernst,
Here.
Jeff Hallstrand,
Here.
Larry Palchek.
Okay, public comment and communications. Do any board or committee members have any communication?
Chairman,
Go ahead.
I became aware of the North Woods Rail Transit Commission. They're having a meeting, and there is some question is who should go, or if we should go. So Nick called it to my attention that Jeff sat on that committee, and so
Jeff didn't know.
Huh? You didn't know that?
Didn't
I
know
don't
it.
remember how you and I sorted that out, who should go to those meetings, but I have been. And
Super.
so now there's the question of should we, and who should go to the meeting on in September?
September 27th.
Yeah.
Based on the activity that's going on with the railroad, I think we should be there just as informational. I mean, what I've heard through the grapevine, that there's activity with both the north and the one going east.
I'd have to agree with Mr. Hallstrand. If you can go, Alan, otherwise I could maybe go, just so,
I
at
could
least
go,
for now, we
Just so
should
that somebody knows that someone should
continue
go.
going, just so you have the information.
Yeah. All right.
And I will go in the future. I just will be out of town yet then.
I would have one other,
Time on their crossings,
pardon me?
on their crossing renewals. There's one in Fifield, our snowplows are gonna catch that.
I
Yeah,
can bring, I can.
We'll
bring it
work
up.
on that at a future
That
meeting. I
meeting.
agree with you, but that we should keep moving here.
Well, fundamental, should we keep going to those meetings?
Yes,
Okay.
for now, yes, I believe so.
And Larry, if you want to let me know what the issue is, I'll bring it up at that meeting.
Better care of their crossings, Andre crossings.
Yeah.
You
I
said you
got
had
one
another?
other thing
Go ahead.
on, that it's not on the agenda, but it has to do with bead. And maybe what I'll do, if, with your permission, is when we talk about, bug tussle and towers, I could talk about bead then.
Sure,
Okay,
I'm
so
okay
I'll
with that.
reserve my time for bead.
okay. Any other committee member comments or communications? Is there anybody from the public here that would like to make a comment? State your name and where you represent.
I'm happy to. Everyone. Chief, do I need a license to
Permit.
get that?
A permit, not a license.
A permit?
Deb, you want to make
Thank you.
sure the mic is on?
Is a green light on?
Hit that button.
Hit that
till
button.
the green light.
No, it's $5.
Thank you.
Yeah, all right, you're right. Okay, so. Good morning. I am Rebecca Poole, and this is Deb Hyde. I'm the director of the library near Phillips, and Deb is the director up in Park Falls. We're here to advocate for the Price County Library. We would like you to fund us at 100% of the state formula. Was I loud enough? Do I need to repeat myself? Okay, good. Sorry. Okay, so the simple reason for our request is inflation. Everything from the books to the snacks to the supplies has doubled in cost over the past 5 years. Our patrons are requesting the new types of items, and these items can cost up to $70 a piece. The simple answer as to why you should fund us at a higher rate is that it costs you very little. Our 5-year plan states that we can bill you at up to 100% for our services, and you running that bill for us doesn't take any money away from the rest of your budget. It adds an increase of 1 cent to your mill rate, so the vast majority of your county residents would see an increase of less than $1 a month on their taxes. This tiny increase would make a dramatic impact across all Price County libraries, allowing us to continue to provide programming, purchase the most in-demand media, and pay our employees a livable wage. In front of you is information on what the Price County libraries have received in funding over the years. If you fund us at 70% next year, Park Falls will be down approximately $10,000 from where they were 5 years ago. Phillips will be down $15,000, and Ogama will be down $4,000. These drops are mostly due to the odd years during COVID and would be almost impossible for us to make up, even if we were to double our circulation. The second sheet that you have shows the reimbursements that other counties in our library system are currently providing. Price County is the only one that is still at 70%. The people here care about their libraries. They care enough to fight about what's on our shelves and to show up at our meetings. I don't think the people of Price County would deny us the small amount that it means for them to pay us our actual operating costs. For the past 10 years, the 70% reimbursement means that we have been telling you that the services cost $1 and you've been giving us 70 cents for them. No other service or product is asked to function using that kind of math, and we've reached the point where it's no longer sustainable for us to continue on this way. I do also want to point out that I know some of you are worried about the decisions being made at a few of the public libraries. If you do fund me at 100%, it does mean that your chairman is allowed to appoint an extra person to the Phillips Public Library Board. So keep that in the back of your mind as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Is there anybody online that would like to comment?
*6 if you'd like to make a public comment.
Hearing none, we'll move on and we can discuss this more. Agenda item 4C4, library services, if we care to. Meeting minutes from August 15th. Entertain a motion to approve. Motion by Barkstrom, second by Polachek. Any discussion? No discussion noted. All in favor of approval, say aye.
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 Those against? Motion carries. Treasurer's report.
Okay, everybody should have it in their packet. We're still sitting very well. We did send out delinquent notices on Friday, so money was coming in yesterday like mad from all the people who didn't remember to pay their July portion of their taxes. Our sales tax is still doing very well. We're quite a bit ahead of where we were last year at this time. I did get a notification this morning from the highway that we have a highway bill coming out of this check run of almost 3 million. So I will be shifting funds from our LGIP to cover that for this week. Otherwise, nothing else outstanding. The Park Falls paper mill called and they're making another payment. So they're getting almost caught up. They only have a little bit left of 2022s and he's hoping to have the 2023s paid by the end of this year.
That's good. to
So
hear.
that was good to hear. And as part of this report too, I provided everybody with the issuance of tax certificates as a comparable over the last couple of years. Our certificates, the number of delinquent taxes for this year has increased over 80 parcels compared to last year. We haven't been that high since before COVID. And the dollar amount has also increased. We are finding some errors from some of the towns during the receiving by sending out these delinquent notices that we're trying to correct and remedy. So that may account for the increase in a couple of these townships.
If I may, what do you mean by errors?
We have a couple of newer treasurers and things weren't completely receipted correctly, and we're finding them as we go along. As we send out notices, people contact us and we're trying to get them corrected and remedied.
And that's a reminder to all the individuals who are paying taxes to make sure when you pay your taxes, you've either paid half or in full or 1/3 if you're multi-pay, but check the receipt, check your bill online to see if it was allocated correctly, because that's where a lot of the errors have been is you pay
Yes.
in full, it only gets half, or you pay half and it got put in full, so you didn't.
Or there's multiple parcels and they only applied it to the one of three. So then the other two go delinquent. So there's just,
And you're finding these errors by comparing your records to the town's errors or the other?
by sending,
municipality?
like March, we sent out delinquent notices for first halves that weren't paid, and we got a lot of phone calls on those. And that's what we found there. And now with the, this notice, what we're finding is people thought they paid him, they have proof they paid him full in January and only half got applied.
Okay.
So
So you're not catching it. I mean,
We
it's being
wouldn't.
caught when there's a complaint.
when we send out notices and we're made aware that the tax wasn't applied.
Right. The ones that are losing out on this would be the municipality, because we do our books, we're made whole to the point of who did pay and didn't pay. So if I paid mine to the town of Elk and it was marked only half and I paid in full, I might be offsetting someone else, the total amount that the county should have versus everybody else. So the municipality would be either extra money or short money. So we, in the end, our books are correct. It's the municipalities that are going to have, they may not be doing their due diligence on balancing, but that's not our responsibility. That's the municipalities. We'll catch it when the system says
Yeah.
you didn't pay. And now
What if they pay only half and they're credited full?
the municipality's paying the full amount to
Yeah,
us.
then the municipality's losing out because
They'll be
they
short.
settled on the amount that they received is what we settle on, and that's what they pay out to the
So they're gonna
schools.
be
So they'll be short the
So
money.
like going back to my example, if I paid half, but my municipality marked it as full, when we collect from the municipality, it was settled at full. Municipality's now short $1,000. I don't care because mine are paid and I don't get a second half bill. The municipality doesn't know where it was because they didn't check up front. And so now they're short $1,000 of what they budgeted. It's
Unless the taxpayer comes forward and says, hey, I only paid half, not full.
right. And that's what we're seeing. Some of them, like Nick, would come in and here's my $1,000, and they'd be like, "You're paid in full." And it's like, you may want to check that because I'll keep my $1,000, but
Right.
And that's what we've been doing. We have the people provide us a copy of front and back of their check so that we can then verify how the payments, but we can only catch it as the people come forward because we have no way of
You have no
double
way of-
checking their
And
work.
I want to
But
clarify, I'm only picking on the town of Elk because I live in the town of Elk. They may,
Yeah,
they
it's-
probably are not the one that is having issues, allegedly.
We're not pointing any fingers, just
No,
We're trying to,
trying to
there's
comprehend the
multiple,
process.
yeah, there's multiple municipalities, including cities, villages, all sizes that had newer individuals or may not have had the resources in place during tax time that have caused citizens to have issues with their pay.
but we're working on it. Slowly but surely, we're getting things corrected. So it's just going to be a work in progress for a while.
Anything else, Treasurer?
I can't think of anything else. Does anybody have any questions? Oh, I guess I got a report on the NREM. On Thursday, we had court to take the 6 parcels that had 2020 delinquent taxes. So we did take 6 parcels that are now in our name. And we just gotta move forward, decide how the land sales and how we're gonna handle all that, which we should know by the end of the
Yeah,
month.
so
I'm
October,
thinking.
November will be an important couple months for this committee and to make our new procedural on how we distribute the property or how we go about getting rid of it. I can't remember, this first chunk, we get 210 days, correct?
I believe so, yeah.
For some reason,
They-
210 sticking out in my
They're
head.
giving us more time because they realize it takes a lot of time to be able to
Yeah.
go through and sell these and
So as soon as we go to our conference, which is the 22nd through the 24th or whatever it is, we'll know more of what we need to do. From there, we'll be moving forward to get our ordinance in place in order to distribute these properties. We also have 5 past properties. or
At
eight.
least, there might be more.
5 or 8. I think we took 5 last, but I think we have 8 properties that have not sold in the past. Those were grandfathered in prior to the new timeline, but not the new rules. So we didn't have to distribute them within 180 to 210 on this first group. But we do have to follow the new procedures once we've established those new procedures.
Are there parcels that it would be advantage for the county to own that we should place a bid on them?
Yeah, so we're working on that with forestry right now. There's the Jeswick property.
Two
Yeah,
parcels.
2
that are-
parcels that would connect some of our public forest land. And so with that, we did go to forestry. They recommend we continue to review those properties to decide whether or not we want to purchase them. The question is, do we have the first
First
shot at
rights,
it? Like,
yeah.
so we know we have to pay market price, but do we have to, does family get some type of first right?
Consideration
Yeah.
over us. Not sure
We'll know
on that
more
yet.
the next 2 months, 3 months.
So what you just said is that you could exclude other people from bidding on them,
We believe so,
but you're not sure.
right. The only group we're not sure on is the family. We know we can exclude public, but I don't know the family because they give the families a lot more rights, or whatever. Where even up to that court date on Thursday, the family could have came forward, and not on the Joswick one because that was
Last
was
year.
last year's, but on these current ones, they could have came until gavel dropped and said, "Here's my check. Pay as a family member. Pay for these," and we would have taken it off the docket. In the past, that was I think 45 days out. That it was
Yeah,
was it there was
30, a
30?
30-day
Okay.
answer period.
yeah. So
they
like
have
we actually stopped the ability for the family 30 or
30
40
days
30
before the
days
court
before the
date, yeah.
court. Now you get right up till gavel drops, as long as you pay in full all penalties and fees.
So what's interesting, Alan, on this, what we talked about yesterday at forestry was, so that piece of property we're talking about, if it goes to auction, do we want to be bidding on it or do we want to let the public and keep it on the tax roll? Well, the family could go to a bank and say, give us $1 million line of credit. We're going to buy this property back, and they could bid it up. Anything above and beyond the $10,000 they get. So if that rule isn't straightened out, to me, that seems wrong. That they've got a valuable chunk of property. They didn't pay their taxes. We took it, we own it, but it has to go to auction. They can bid it up and they get the profit off of it and they keep their land.
And that's where we're questioning, because each one of these properties owes $10,000. So it's 20 in this case, but 10 per property. So if they came forward, why would we go through the bidding process when only the auctioneer is going to win because there's a 10% fee on top of it? Because otherwise, like you said, the family gets a line of credit. They have to have the cash. You're out for 30 days until it gets returned. They could bid it up and just in the end, they end up paying just the taxes and fees. So that's where we're questioning, does the family have the right till who knows when? That again, we're very
Unclear.
Good word to word.
Anything else, Lynn?
And then I'll be starting doing the title searches on the delinquent 2021. So this whole process will start over again in November on the 2021 taxes. So that's about it.
Very good, thank you. Any further comments or questions for the clerk? I should say treasurer, I'm sorry.
We're both bailing.
Okay, we'll move along. County Administrator, 2023 Audit Report.
So you will be meeting with the auditors at the next county board meeting. They'll review our report card, how we did, where we're at. So you'll be able to talk to them for the audit. The two things we have today are resolutions that we do with every audit. So the first one is the transfer of capital improvement funds. This one, there's two options. One is your proceeds. So it says right on the top of the resolution, it's either 20% of sales tax, or 50% of the general fund revenues, or net gains on the general fund. So the sales tax this last in 2023 was $1,413,000, which is $282,000. And the general fund net profit was $773,605. Most of that comes from stumpage, a couple other things, interest on money. And so that is the greater of the two at $386,802. We did have some land sale stuff that we take out, but in the end it would be, or we added in this case, but so the transfer to the capital improvement fund this year would be $387,810. We do this every year.
Everybody understand that? Sort of?
Yeah.
If I had to be a betting individual, 2024 will be the 20% of sales tax, because
Who has their eye on the capital fund? Who wants to spend money on that? Everybody?
We do.
I was gonna say every board member is voted. No, we'll be talking about that in the budget. But like this year, we did boilers, we did the parking lots. We're gonna talk about an asphalt pad out at the.
So there's more than just highway?
Oh, it's very rarely highway. That's a different fund. Yeah, this is more of your boilers, your chillers, your airport, your dams, parking lots.
They're in there?
Yeah, we've done windows and doors. Yeah, this is general capital, building capital. Structures, yeah.
Okay,
I would make a motion to approve the resolution.
Motion by Hellstrand,
I'll second it.
second by Barkstrom. Any further discussion? None noted. Call for a vote. All those in favor of approving the resolution signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion carries. Go on to the next resolution.
Okay, so the next resolution is if any department, so the uniqueness of this is we only review expenses. We don't go, oh, you also had a revenue that offsets these expenses. So it's a little unique in that way. But we have a fiscal policy that says any account or any expenditure line that's greater than 10% or $25,000 has to be okayed by you guys. So there's a list of several spots, departments that went over their expenditures. And there's also a list here. What you're going to see, the common theme is health insurance. So either they had a new employee that took a family plan, or we did under budget for health insurance levy wise, knowing we were just putting it back into our fund. Couple went out there for a second. For a couple, multiple of them are the health insurance. Capital improvement was a one-time transfer that we did. Grant revenues was land information. So what we do is we pretty much budget the same expenses every year for land info. They'll get a big grant, but usually it'll be an off year. So they'll get the grant this year, but don't spend it for a year or two. So then expenses are high, but their revenue already came in and it sits in their fund. So again, nothing crazy there. The corrections was probably the biggest. Well, Sheriff's Department corrections, they had excess wages of almost $300,000. And part of that was due to benefits, health insurance costs. But a big thing is training the new officers. We got a new investigator. We did a new part-time staff, went to full-time. So that was a lot of it. So we've been correcting that over the years to catch up with those.
So the budget upcoming corrects that? So you don't have this?
Not
issue?
entirely, but we're working towards it. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that might quite seeing that a lot of health insurance have we.
Oh, the health
adjusted?
insurance we've adjusted, but the wages on the sheriff's department, we've always slowly built that one back up, because the problem there is like corrections officers. We were short 4 out of the 12. And when you start to hire those, even though you filled those positions, you're still working overtime to train people. You're still working overtime to go. So you're doubling up for a whole year. Well, 6 months.
They have a union contract, don't
Not the jail.
The sheriff's department.
Sheriff's
But
Department has
not
you.
the jail.
Correct. So a lot, that's where, yeah, you're doubling up because you're training those new individuals. So that's why we slowly get to that number. We don't just go, here you go, Sheriff, here's a check to offset that, because next year we may not have all that training, and then all of a sudden we have too much money in there, and then that gets spent somewhere else, because there's certain departments that if you put $1, they'll spend $2. Not this one, though.
Well, it seems like
Not
every year that I've been on the board, the sheriff is way over the budget, and
I
and
think-
I understand that with law enforcement, you can't control the overtime. But I kind of thought with the last contract with our doing away with comp time, there would be a bigger adjustment here, that it wouldn't be this bad anymore.
Yeah, and it across the state. I mean, it's a way to control the cost there. It's like, you're going to be short, because like I said, certain departments spend the money if you put the money there. I know what you're saying. We did reduce the cost quite a bit with that comp time, but then we also gave them in the last contract decent wage increases, so that offsets it too.
We made the motion.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion
And
to approve.
Motion to approve by Barkstrom,
I'll second that.
second by Erickson. Any further discussion? We did that already. No further discussion. Call for a vote. All those in favor of approving transfer to offset 2023 budget overage signify by saying aye.
All right,
Those opposed? Resolution passes. 2024 financial report. Nick?
We were talking, sir. So the next thing, the 2020 financials, it should be in your packet. I can share here. It's the one with the logo on the top, runs left to right. Go through it quickly. Be up on the board. So the first one is the general fund. As you can see, we've collected we're at 67% of the year. We've collected 76% of the revenues we've expected to collect, and we've spent 73% of the expenses. So we're a little bit over there. I don't remember if there was a project or what we had, but Sheriff's Department is a little bit over. The only thing that I was going to bring up in the general fund where we're seeing an issue right now is jail population. We're housing 10 inmates out of county right now. We haven't housed inmates out of county for several years. So that's been a huge savings for a long time. It looks like we're going to be over that line item quite a bit this year. Our jail population, we can hold, I think it's 26, and we're just over 36, 37. So right now, it's just no good explanation. We're transitioning the court system between judges. It's transitioning with judges, so there's a little bit of timeliness there, but
them officers are out working too much overtime.
our officers are working hard. So there's no consistent, it's not like, oh, we have a bunch of people in our jail for X, Y, or Z. It's major, it's not simple things like, oh, it's a DUI again. It's some pretty nasty stuff. So that's the major overage we've seen this year so far. Health and Human Services, they're at 69% of the year. Again, this one's been creeping up on us over the last couple of years. High cost placements have been doing well, but the reason that looks well is we've moved some of that stuff into the AODA behavioral health, because that's really what they're classified as, even though they're under like the children and youth. It's because of behavioral health issues. So that's where the costs are going in the department that it's under. Right now, we know we have some overages going through this year. We had some last year, but going into next year, we did make an adjustment in the budget. But we also have been talking to the Health and Human Service Department we believe there's a better way to classify some of these expenses, which would give us more revenue. So just like we did with children and youth, we now have some area in the behavioral health that we want to explore to make sure we're getting the most out of our revenues. Other funds, we're right on track with those, health insurance, things like that. Price County cash, we're at 2% less than we were at this time last year. A lot of that, we have some big expenses that are outstanding, as in we've spent them, but we haven't gotten the revenues. So for example, we'll talk about bridge and culvert aid. On some of the projects, we are the bank for the municipality. So if the municipality hires us to do it, we pay all the bills, wait till the project's done, and then charge the municipality back. And then we have to wait a whole nother year to get our money back in taxes. So say it's a $400,000 project, we're out $400,000 cash until we get the 200 from the municipality, and then 6 to 12 months later get $200,000 from the tax bridge and culvert aid. So that's one area, and you'll see, I think this year we have 400 some thousand to collect from the taxpayer. So that's a pretty good chunk that we're currently being the bank for. We also have large checks coming out. So you'll see, and it historically you'll see us go down, but we have about a $2 million check to write to American Asphalt for the Highway W project, 3 million. So it's a big chunk coming out. Some of that, again, we have grants and money, and then in December we'll get a $3 million check from the banks to cover it because we borrow to offset that. We're the bank, and then we borrow back. So instead of spend the borrowing, we spend our cash, borrow to pay ourselves back by collection.
We're going to talk about future borrowing in your budgets, right?
Yep, and we did not increase any of that, but we have to collect based on the check we're about to write. So we have to put it in there. Or I suppose we could just use all our cash, but that would be probably a poor cash decision. Sales tax, we are a little bit, so Lynn gives you a number that the state gives us that says, here's where we're at this month, what we've collected. The way the audit works, though, we have to move it back 2 months. So we're ahead of last year's state number, but we're behind the county's 2 month number by 1.5% or $10,000. We believe by the end of the year, we'll be ahead of our number because the state's ahead of their number. But the way we have to report it for our audit, so you don't get confused, that's why the two numbers are different. They're 2 months behind. So 2 of Lynn's months, the January, February, are actually November, December from last year compared to our numbers, which we move them all back 2 months. So we do it when they occurred, not when we received. Price County stumpage, we talked about this at forestry yesterday. We are about half of what we were last year at this time. But if you compare the 2 years, we're ahead overall. We're going to hit our budget on average, so that's okay.
I've noticed on the agenda for the forestry, there was no discussion on carbon credits.
No, we're going to have that, I think, next agenda, 1 or 2 agendas. So we'll have discussion once we get some information back from them.
In the department report, Joe did just give a briefing that he believes we've got stuff out there on the market for sale right now.
And Bayfield did make their first sale.
Bayfield made their first sale.
Received their check.
I'd be interested in what the current market is, the price per.
I think it's $23 a credit.
We started out at 8, right?
Starting out at 8 was what we originally put it all
But
together at.
It was no sales, it's not gonna do you any good.
No, we got to make the sale, right?
Right.
Yeah. High cost placements, children and youth, like we said, it's still creeping up, but we're way less than we were last year at this time. We made some adjustments for next year's budget. AODA, this is the one where it's quite a bit higher. We're back to 2017, 18 numbers. But like I said, some of that's where we're allocating the funds compared to what we used to.
That's alcohol and drug addiction? Is that what
Behavioral health too. Yep.
AODA?
Yeah. They're actually going through a renaming process at the state because it's considered behavioral health also. It's not just alcohol and other drugs.
So it could be mental issues.
Yep. Behavioral health.
Do we know? Do we have some kind of a breakout of?
I would say
You got
80% of it was
schizophrenia or something like that.
it's just the individuals that need mental health services. I wouldn't call it like the high, like what you see on TV, the schizophrenia, the dementia. It's,
Some of it's natural, some of it's self-induced.
yeah.
So this is the account, Nick, that you said you're coding more stuff to this AODA and not as much to children and youth?
Correct. So,
Because they're way down and.
right.
All right, so it kind of,
They offset each other, and in the next budget we lower children and youth, put a little bit more in AODA, but we're also, like I said, the state is focused on mental health, and so they've released a lot of funds, but we got to make sure we're coding it properly, or we have the proper staff, the certified staff in place to get that money back. So that's our goal for next year, is to be monitoring that. Health insurance, our fund balance is currently at negative 296,000. We still have, now we're at the point of people have hit their deductibles and all those things. So we're starting to see more bills, but we're also still collecting. We also found out at our last health insurance meeting that we've been billed wrong by the hospitals, well, by the Marshfield Clinic contracts. So my 10,000 foot view is we were supposed to be getting about a 20 to 23% discount for offering that product. And we were only getting like an 18% discount, and we had like $1.2 million worth of claims. So if you take 5 to 6% of that, we should be receiving hopefully a reimbursement. And then this year, the same thing has happened. So that'll be another reimbursement. And then going forward, we should be charged properly. So
That's Marshfield system.
yeah.
I found out that the Ascension thing fell through.
Oh, did it? Hmm. Either way, billing, we have some billing errors that we'll be addressing through our broker. Yeah.
How are they discovered?
So we were working on our health insurance product for next year, and we were originally going to get rid of the Marshfield it's called Simply One, but it's a narrow network, and just say we only offer the broad network. Everybody goes this, because we've seen the services just dwindle. So it's becoming less and less popular. So then is it easier for us just to say we offer this one product, which is a broad network? And when we talked about this with our broker, they said, okay, we'll still look, because you might still get those discounts. Even though you only offer one, it's still cheaper if people choose Marshfield Clinic on the billing side. And then when they were talking to the Marshfield Clinic about getting rid of the Simple One, they're like, oh yeah, you're averaging like 18%. It's like, no, our contract says 23, 24. So that's how it got discovered, as we were working on our plan for next year.
Anything else on the financial report? Any questions? Okay, we'll move on to the next item, 2025 budget.
So you should have got a packet. It's the long, tall packet. Budget packet, blue on the top. So we've gone through and made some updates. On the agenda, you'll see a list of specifics that we need to talk about, but we can talk about anything in the budget. It was just, those are, I wouldn't call them decision-making points, but major discussion points. One of the things we discovered is the state changed personal property and how it's reported on our levy sheet. So even though we had probably one of our best ever net new construction, the personal property changed. And so we didn't net that 78,000. We only netted 12,000. So that was a $50,000 adjustment we had to make since we last met after we saw our budget worksheet. We are working with the state saying, how do we collect that? How do we get back to that personal property level? Because now we're out $50,000. But that was probably that major change. We, in the 2025 assumptions, we had a $200,000 savings in health insurance by using Tailored Family Clinic, but then we, just like all those overages we talked about, this is where we adjusted that increase to the departments. So that's the 237. So we had a net gain of 37,400. Adjustments recommended by our office would be the sales tax, shared revenue, interest on investments, and then the wage increase. So those are not highlighted. We'll talk about those first. So sales tax, we've been doing really well with sales tax. So we recommended an increase of $70,000 towards our operational budget. Any issues with that? I mean, we collect 1.4 million and we budget 1.25 or whatever the round numbers come to. Shared revenue, we got more of that. That's the new thing from the state. That's the increase we get, which was 44,000. Interest on investments, we've been doing very well in our investments, which is cash, which is are usually CDs. We call them investments. They're not what you think of as like a mutual fund or something like that. So we are now recognizing some of that money, which is 145,000. And originally we talked about a 3% wage increase across the board. Due to all the other increases and some of the stuff we know we have to address, we're recommending 2% across the board. We talked to our neighboring counties. Most of them are in that 2 to 2.5%. So we're not falling behind, but we're also not doing 3%, which we've done for a while. We've also done several other bumps for the last couple of years. So I understand 2% sounds low, I guess. I don't know. It's better than we used to do, and it's still decent instead of 3%. The next one, which is more discussion we have to have, is Catkins. So right now we pay about 50,000. They're
If I want
Okay,
to
go ahead.
understand something here. So on your adjustment recommended, that section there, in the red is good news.
correct. Yep. Good. Red means it's a revenue and it lowers the need of the operational levy.
I just want to understand that.
Yeah, and 2% across the board is not actually 421,000. That's included in that because we did the wage study and we didn't fund 100% of that this year, knowing we had to fund some of it next year. So that 2% also includes finishing that funding, which is 300 some thousand of that, because I think 1% is like 80,000. So half of it, 160,000 is the actual 2%. The rest is what you guys made as a wage for 2024. So that's why it's 421,000. The next one, which is a specific item on, oh no, it isn't. Never mind. It's in our, so Catkins, we currently pay, like I said, about that 50,000. They've come back, or they want to renew their contract, but they've come back with different levels of cost. Right now, we put in $54,000 above what they currently are contracted for. That is not what they're requesting. They're requesting much more than that. But this is what we have available today, or until we continue that negotiation, which eventually you guys would be involved in negotiating that contract and coming up with a final number. But we did put some money aside to try to offset.
Does anybody else want that business?
No. No.
Just asking.
Yeah, no. 100,000 flat. There was, yeah.
Remember to use your mics, please.
So yes, we put 100 total thousand, which is 54 more than last year. Like I said, that's not what they're requesting. They're requesting more than that, but we have to start somewhere. So we put what we could in the budget based on, again, our recommendations out of our office. Hopefully at the next meeting, we'll actually have a finalized recommended contract that we can go into closed session and negotiate with Catkins to finalize that number. Most counties around us spend about 100 to 120,000, so it puts us in the ballpark. If we were to have to do it ourselves, there are some counties, what they do is they build a building. So you build a certifiable shed, so it's got to be on a slab, it's got to be heated, It's got a blah, blah, blah. It doesn't have to be huge. It's just got to be kennel certified. And then you hire part-time individuals when you have animals during their hold period, which is pretty much 365 days a year. So there's a cost to us doing it, and there's a cost to them doing it for us. And so we've been lucky. They've been a great partner, and they hope will continue to be a great partner, but they also have been doing it for a very good deal over the years. What the biggest problem right now is no other kennel, or what are they called? Humane societies, not kennels, but humane societies have availability. So they're all busting at the seams all around us. So in the past, they'd get an animal and they could take it up to Douglas County, which would have more available people to adopt. But right now, Douglas County, I think, just built a new wing on their humane society because of the number of animals.
Mr. Hallstrand.
So question on that, do we, when we confiscate say a dog or a cat,
Mhm.
and they're in Catkins, are we billing that back to the owner? And if so, do we track that? And if not, should we be?
We do. So if you want your animal back, you have to pay the daily fee. So if it takes you 7 days, it's $70, I believe, to get that animal back. Plus you have to make sure it's got its tags. It's got to have its shots. So it might cost you $150 to get that animal back.
But that doesn't go through our ledger, that goes through.
Nope, that's through
Catkins.
Catkins. So Catkins, if they decide to waive those fees, that's their issue. They don't tend to, unless they know like that individual, it's going to cost them more to keep that animal than it is to say, here you go, owner, that was your animal. Because it's not neglected. So we're talking two different stray holds versus neglect case. Stray holds, it would be like, cool, you lost your dog, you're taking care of it. You come and say, I can't pay that $100, and Catkins will waive that, give you your dog. A neglect type case, if it's a court case, we pay the bill until court has dropped the gavel. If it's, our goal is surrender. So if I walk up to you, Jeff, and say, hey, you're neglecting this animal, we're taking these 7 dogs, sign this piece of paper that you're willing to surrender them because we know you can't take care of them. We can go to court if you want. If not, sign this paperwork. I would say 85% of the time the people are like, yup, I can't do this, sign the paperwork. But there's always that percentage that we have to go through the court process. Those ones we pay for. That was the cat issue we had last year that cost.
And we got no reimbursement out of that case.
We still in the court system to put it to those individuals, but chances are, yeah.
Even if we get a judgment, they probably won't pay it,
We
right?
don't pay it, yeah.
Animals are expensive. Like I said, surrounding counties, we're all in that 100 to 125 if they do the system we do. There are some that are still on the old system like we used to have, where we'd contract an animal control officer. They would have to be responsible for it, and they would do a bid. So Ashland, like I said, Ashland, keep up whatever you're doing, because they spend about $10,000 a year on this because it's based on the number of animals. However, they don't collect a lot of animals either. They're very specific to what they do. No cats. They won't touch a cat with a 10-foot pole.
So why are we doing it?
Well, we're not doing anything above and beyond. We're the in between. So like Nick catches an animal, Catkins is going to take it either way. But what's happening is they'll call us and say, we caught a cat. Can you take it to Catkins? So we're the in between. We can turn that off, but it doesn't stop us from having to have the service available for the dogs. The dogs are the expensive part. The cats aren't what we're getting charged for.
In my mind, I just like to know, are we doing more than is required by the state than we have to? Is that?
Slightly
Or-
more, but not enough that it would reduce our cost. Because we've talked about that a lot with law enforcement and with Catkins, is just, okay, what if we do this? And it's like, the problem is we only have room, I think it's for 14 dogs, and we're half of those all the time.
So, but how can Ashland buy so cheap then?
I'm not questioning what they're doing because I don't think they maybe compliant in certain areas, so that's
Okay.
up to them. That's up to them and their board, and yeah. But if you talk to Sawyer, Rusk has their own humane society, so they're in the 200,000s. So they run that. Sawyer County's in that 100 to 120. Oneida was in that 100,000. Taylor was in the 100,000. So I don't think all of them are doing it wrong. We're just catching up to where we need to be, or where the expense is. In the past, they've been able to get away with it because they've had a lot of donors and they haven't had the number of animals, and people aren't adopting them now, so they're just busting at the seams. So hopefully, like I said, we put money in. I don't know where that's going to end up in the negotiation. They've also their building is, I don't know, does anybody know when Catkin started, but I would guess 20 years old now. 20 years old now. So like their HVAC is bad, their water heater is bad, their roof is bad. Like they have expenses that are starting to creep up on them, and that's part of cool. You want our building here, it's going to cost you to have these animals here. Like I said, they'll come in and talk to us. We just Bobby Hahn so Chief Deputy Hahn and I have been sitting at the table to get it to at least a narrower discussion than give us all the monies.
Okay.
Friends of Fred Smith is also highlighted on that. So they do our statue restoration. When I talked to Ann, who's the director there, they do very well with their partner in the Kohler Foundation, but there's also continuing expenses. We do quite a bit of work out there because it is our park, but we don't do anything with the statues per se. So they've requested an additional $2,500 on top of their $5,000. We did put that in unless there's a discussion to not include that $2,500.
I think that in their 501c,
It's on. He's just not.
I'm not
talking.
close enough.
There you go.
Okay. They're a 501c3, and so they have bylaws. And if that were to fold, I believe in their bylaws, it says that it goes back to, that they're gonna try to give it to some other 501c3. Why wouldn't I go back to the county?
The care would not come. Well, the statues are ours, so they can't give away the statues. But if they were to fail or
Fail,
not
right.
succeed, it could go to. We would just have somebody else be a caretaker of the statues.
Just seems to me you could lose it.
No, because we're the owner of the park and the statues. They're the
What
caretaker.
about the tavern there?
Oh, we don't care. That was the tavern was their own thing. They went and did their own thing on the Stony Pub Tavern. That is separate from the park
So
and
we have no connection there.
no connection, no cost, nothing's going towards that. That was made very clear when the Kohler Foundation gave them funding, that was to be a separate entity under the Fred
Right.
Smith. We have, no money goes towards that from the county. It's a separate.
I think it's a major asset for the county, and I just.
Oh yeah, the park is, and
Yeah.
if they want to run that tavern, we've used it. Hey, I will say the asset it's been for us is when we hired our corp counsel, they couldn't find
Sure.
temporary living, so they lived upstairs for almost 2 months. We had somebody come into town for like a week at a time. I can't remember what project it was, but they were staying there. So it's worked out well that we've had access to a VRBO above the tavern. And thank you if she's listening. She does an excellent job at charging us a reduced rate. Oh, I remember. It was when the DA lived up there. So not our new DA, but when we had
One from Racine.
the guy
Traveling.
from Racine,
Cody.
Tom Cody. He lived there, and she charged us very well. So we did very good on that. So that's our operational levy. So everything we talked about makes our operational levy balanced. The ones that would just be, if you go down, it's a 0.28% increase on the levy. So that's a minimal amount of what we're doing for what would, like if we just cut it off there, didn't do debt, didn't do anything, year over year, the levy would go up 0.28%. So you'd slightly pay more in your
So
taxes.
not included in what you just talked about is that community development officer.
Correct. That we did not put in there because we're at zero. We're already broke even. So those were the things on the list we had to talk about was the community development officer, which is about 65,000. That's through the UW extension. We did not fit that in, but we can continue to talk about it along with economic development. We didn't put anything for economic development. That would be on the community list unless we did it ourselves. Can't remember what the other list. I gave Brian a whole list. I'll have to look it up, but we'll go over that once we get to the end. Those things that we didn't include. So if you go to page 3 or page 2 of the writing, this is where the debt service comes in place. So the ones in blue are what goes away. So 100,000, 400,000, 400,000, 2 million, 339, 340,000, and 5,000. Those all go away, right? Those are paid off in full. And then we have to, some of them we have to go back and they, in order to make highway whole, that's what we do. So the first line of the approved one is the resolution that you guys put in place, 36-23, to allow highway to spend up to $1 million in projects. That's Highway W. That's what we just did. That's Highway D, W, and a couple like ditching on our future projects. So that you guys approve a year ahead of time saying, put it in the budget for next year. The only thing you can do different with this is spread it out over multiple years. And we had that conversation at the last meeting where do you just rip the Band-Aid off, add the $1 million, or do you spread it out? So if you go up to the top in the blue where it says 2,021,000, that's what we're replacing is a $2 million one with a $3 million one. Because you guys approved as a board $1 million additional dollars last year. Everybody understand that one?
Yeah.
Okay. Then you go down to the pending resolutions, meaning we haven't made the resolutions, but it's what we do yearly. So the first one's 405. If you go up to the top, that's the 404,941. And then if you go down to 115, that one is the 105. As you can tell, interest rates have gone up, even though it's short term. And then the 735,000 is the 394 and the 339 combined. So what we're doing is all the blue ones go away and we created new ones on the bottom to offset. So our debt levy stays the same year over year. So that includes all the projects, that includes everything. The increase comes with the resolution 36-23 to do $3 million, up to $3 million in projects. So our new debt levy is $4,848,094, unless we change the $3 million to a multiple year increase, which you guys didn't recommend last meeting. Any question on debt?
So what is that going to, if we pay it off sooner,
It saves you on the interest.
what is that
quite a
going
bit.
to look like on a tax bill?
Yep. So the debt alone is increasing our levy by 10%. So out of the 19 cents, that's about 10, 11 cents of that. So the debt is 11 cents of the increase, if that helps. Which is $10 per 100,000 over the year, through the year. So less than $1 a month. That was a click. All right, so that's debt. Everybody's okay with the $1 million increase? I shouldn't say, are you okay? Do you understand the $1 million increase? The next, so that's independent of our operational levy. So our operational levy, we're technically not allowed to increase at all, except by net new construction. And you guys approved that, which is 0.77, but there was an offset. So operating levy is where we're capped. State says, no, you're capped. Debt levy, we have wide open. We can do $115 million a year in payments. We do $4 million.
We can only do 100 because of bug tussle.
True, which we have a sheet in here for you to review, just so you know what that would look like. But yes, we have 115 million of available debt. We use 4 million. We've now guaranteed, where we've backed 16 million. So yes, we have 100 million of our own payments, but we do 4 million. So we're we're well within our borrowing capacity. The next line item is library services. Again, this is above and beyond your levy. So this is a collection. We're a fiduciary pass through for this. It doesn't come out of our daily operations. It was requested that we go back down to the 70% when we were having the discussion, to have that discussion to go, what's the final number? So if we stay at the 70%, there's a 0.14% increase because there was additional circulation. And then in your packet, there's a breakdown. So on page, oh, they're on here, page 7. So on page 9, it's the library services discussion. So if you look at it in 2023, city of Ladysmith was 627, now it's 860. What I need to clarify is the 70% automatically applies to all out of county libraries. So that's not what we're discussing. The 70% is to up to 100. The discussion is only on the 3 libraries that are located in the county. So there'll be Phillips, Park Falls, and Ogama. If you look at the levy, it did go up $16,000 just at the 70%. On the bottom of the page, you can see if you go to 80%, it's 0.01 cent. If you go to 90%, it's 0.03 cents. If you go to 100%, it's 0.04 cents on the mill rate. So it's up to you to make a recommendation on what percentage. If it's 100, we had 100 in the last one, so it was 5 cents more than what it is today.
That's further down on the budget, right? You want
On the page, yep. On the bottom of the page, right?
to,
Oh, yeah, we're just talking about it.
just
as a
talking
whole.
about it, but you don't want an action right now, do you?
It's up to you if you want to skip around. I mean, it's
Was this, I know it's 70%, the minimum that we're required,
Yep.
70%. How was it determined what we paid in the past? Was that a full board decision?
No, so what was done in the past is it had the same exact language, 70 to 100%. What the libraries would turn in is what we put in the budget, which was 70%. So we never had the discussion because they were already requesting the minimum. This is the first year that I can recall, so in a while, that they're requesting above that minimum. So they turned in their paperwork requesting 100%, and that's where the board has to make a decision whether it's 70, 80, 90, 92,
The
whatever.
board or the committee?
Committee would make a recommendation for the board.
It's still good to go to the board.
Yeah, this would have to go to the full board as the full budget. I mean, it's part of the budget.
I do have a question on the numbers of the sheet. And I don't, the 23 circulation numbers, why don't we have those on here?
Because this was put together right before we did the 2023 annual reports. So the numbers laid behind 2 years. So like what you guys give us in 2025 is based on 2023. And honestly, I just didn't have a chance because I was out of town this weekend.
Okay, but you do have those numbers now?
We do have those numbers now. Yes.
Because I'd like to see if the circulation is going up or not. I see that Phillips circulation seems to be going down, a little bit up this last year.
Yes, we are still trending very slightly up. And then Park Falls is where they were at before COVID, I believe.
Yes.
Yes,
So 10,000
right.
ish.
And I'm not really sure what Ogama's doing, but they just got a new director who is fantastic. So I expect that their numbers will go up as well.
Now time to,
For the board meeting, I can grab those numbers.
should we make a motion to forward this to the board for discussion, or?
I don't think it needs to be a formal, it's just where do you want me to prepare the where do you want Carrie to prepare the number for the board? You want to leave it at 70 with this information of the 1, 3, and 4 cents based on the
That's where I'd like to go. What are other people's feelings? Mr. Barkstrom?
It seems to me, we don't do it with wages, a 30-point bump in a particular, in a year's time is usually we're gonna offer 2%. So I think, I would be okay with 80%, but not a 30-point bump.
Any other comments?
I would make a motion to amend it to that.
Is there a second? Motion by Barkstrom to amend the budget worksheet to 80% for library. That's not setting it at 80, that's just putting it in for worksheet purposes and bringing it to the full board. Is there a second? Motion failed to have a second, so we'll leave it at 70.
Unless there's a different motion, yeah.
Yeah.
Or a discussion. But I mean, now you know what the numbers will be. We can have that discussion with the full board. We will have to figure out a number in the end of what you guys want to put in there. So the biggest change, excuse me, over the year is the bridge and culvert aid. So at your last meeting, we only had about 80, must have been 2 of these. So probably the 19 and the 70, we had about $90,000 in bridge and culvert aid. Some of the projects, the Wooster project and I think it was the Georgetown one finished. And so they're ready to collect. So that went from 100,000 to 341,000. That's where the biggest, so that's a 3% levy increase or mill rate increase year over year. Nothing we can do about that one. That's a collection, right? That's you guys approved resolutions. We collect on it. The biggest thing is in the future, if you want to manage it differently, you could say, nope, Wooster, you can't do this project for a year. Or we can highway could start looking at it and saying, we don't want to do more than $200,000 in any one year.
So Nick, are all the townships involved? Just the villages are not?
And cities are.
Villages and cities are not, but all of the townships participate?
Yep. So like if you live in the city of Park Falls, this will not affect you. City of Phillips, villages, it gets distributed to the 17 or 18 that participate.
Is it all townships? I guess I thought it wasn't, but it is.
I think
Okay.
everybody's participating.
Okay.
Not everybody writes bridge and culvert projects
Right.
though.
Right.
They pay, but
So now, again, this one, there's not much you can do, but this is where probably the biggest. So after lowering the library down to 70, but putting this back in, we actually went up 4 cents overall. So if we would have been down the 200,000, we'd actually be down to 11 cents, which would have been the 4 cents that the library change was. So that's why there's a difference. Last time we presented was with library at 15 cents. We were requested to put the library at 70, which made it go down to 11, but then bridge and culvert aid made it go up to 19. The bridge and culvert aid fluctuates year to year. So next year there might be 0 projects or $20,000 in projects. So that would go down the 4 cents per 100,000.
Just to understand this bridge and culvert, we don't have anything to say about what projects they do.
Yep, you guys approve
approve
every
them.
one of
We
them.
approve them, but I mean, okay, and basically we approve every one of them.
Yeah, you approve them
But
because of the funding. So you could
the,
say no.
The scope of the projects or each individual project, it could be more or less depending on the townships, right?
Correct.
What they want to do.
Yep. So, but you could manage it differently as a board by saying, yep, Wooster, you're requesting a $220,000. We don't want to put that on the levy this year. So no. And then put it off a year. It's hard because you're working with the municipalities.
Do the townships ever give you a heads up? Like, do they know when we're doing this budget, what they're going to be doing for the next year?
No, because I'm going to try to add one yet this year. We just had one. come
so,
up.
so I think looking towards the future, how we could potentially do that is treat the bridge and culvert just like the trip funding, where if you received a bridge and culvert this year, you went to the bottom of the list, and if
We did that. in the past, right? So what Jeff's saying is like, cool, by April 1st, every municipality has to have their request in. We review it and say, we're only going to approve $200,000 worth of projects to put on bridge and culvert. What was happening is we would get we'd get one request and it was 60,000. So then we were just like, well, just whenever they come in. Well, Boosters was 220 alone. So that was a big project.
But I mean, the problem is you find culverts at any time and something fails and that's what this happened to be. But the other issue is now the state has came up with inspecting all these culverts. So we're probably going to see a high increase in this number from the townships.
Because they're gonna find so many that
Yes.
don't meet the
Right.
standard.
Yes.
And that's where I say we're gonna need to set up some sort of thing, or this will be $1 million, because what they're gonna find is a lot of them 30 and 40-inch culverts,
6-foot ones.
6-foot ones that the bottoms are gone. That's a $80,000 to $100,000 project, and there's gonna be lots of them.
Yeah, and we'd pay half
Right.
or we collect half. We don't pay a penny.
Right.
But we hold the
collect.
bank for it.
Or some, if we do the project, we're holding the bank, yeah, or we are the bank. So we're always a year behind. We're cash.
So to do what Jeff's talking about, to change the formula, if you want to call it that, what's the process moving
process.
forward?
Highway, highway would have to control that process. They're the ones that review all of those.
So does
Well-
this committee direct highway to start looking into that? Or are they
We
already
can talk
looking
to
into it?
Roger about it and
Okay.
we'll work on that.
Larry, do you guys have, isn't there a trip funding committee actually that reviews trip funding projects?
There is.
There is. So I would think it would almost fall under that same type of committee.
Oh, that's not a local committee though. That's a regional.
But there is a local committee.
But there is a local committee too.
Oh, I suppose with the municipality, it's not internal, I guess. Because it's not like our 3 board members. We'll work on it with Roger.
Yeah, I think we need to do something because we don't want to get blindsided, especially with this new inspection requirement.
Well, there again, like your original question, they all come to us to pass for a resolution, so we can just, it's somewhere along the line, pick a number and say, no, we're
Here's
done
our-
for the year.
We've maxed it out this
Yeah.
year.
Well, I think we should have some kind of a
Process.
system or process to do it though, not just
I
randomly.
agree, because Doug is 100% right with this new culvert inspection. We're gonna get lambasted. And-
The interesting thing though is
The
most of these
township,
culverts
yeah.
have to be done. So then where is the money gonna come from for
Right.
these townships?
Right, we're the half.
Because
the
they're all
collector,
broke.
yeah.
I mean, all the townships are on shoestring budgets, so.
If the county is required to pay for half of the project, I mean, the county's still gonna have to pay for half the project some way.
No, we're not required. We're just
Required?
collecting. No,
Not
so
required? Okay.
it's like a grant process. So like say you had to do a $200,000 culvert. It's up to you as a municipality to do 200. It's just we have a program in place that says we'll help you
Okay,
collect.
I
from-
didn't realize, I
No.
thought I
No.
thought the
The
county
county-
is required over.
County
three.
pays half through billing the taxpayer.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. So it's nothing out of our pocket. We're just being a fiduciary pass through financial.
So it would
pass-through.
not have to be.
Right, but then the municipality would say, I still got to replace this. It's 200,000. So it's 100% out of your town's budget.
Yeah.
And otherwise we're more, it's like a grant program
Yeah. Okay.
without.
I guess I assume that we're required,
No.
but we're not.
But if we do approve it, then it would influence our mill rate.
Right. In this case, we've already approved them. There's
Right.
nothing you can do. Yeah.
No, but going
8 cents
forward,
worth, yeah. 12 cents worth this year. And last year, I think it was 8. What's on the very top? I don't have it. It was. Oh yeah. So last year was only 38,000. This year it's 10
It-
times it.
And did we approve, I believe, the bridge on Solberg Lake Road?
W,
that-
yeah.
That's
Or,
not,
yes,
East
East
Solberg.
Solberg Lake Road, yeah. I know.
that's not on here, correct? Cause was over $1 million.
Yeah, that's.
That's a different, yeah. And I don't know, is that a bridge and culvert aid or was
Yes,
that a
I
federal?
believe it
There's
was.
Federal, then there's state, I remember seeing
Oh.
the resolution, so there's multiple.
Oh, that one, that was a split. Like the
Yes.
feds did 80.
Yep,
The
Okay.
20% is what we split. So it's only 10% of the million. So it'd be
Okay, and that's
100,000.
not on here.
Correct. That would be 100,000 one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not the whole million. And that's the other thing is because that was the state legislators were looking at saying, that's not okay, because if you're getting the federal money to knock it down to 20%, there was something like, well, then you shouldn't be allowed to be in the bridge and culvert or the state bridge aid program, because you've already knocked it down to 20. You shouldn't be able to knock that 50% down to 10 and then that 10 down to 5 with another program. So it's been getting it.
This 222 is the Solberg Lake.
Oh, this one is?
Yeah.
Is
the
that okay? So
disappearing
that,
thing.
Oh, is it? Oh,
Yeah.
because we just requested another one or disapproved another one for them
Yeah, we did.
last time.
the big one. But that's how the bridge and culvert, it's, you review it, you collect. It's not we don't get much say in it. The biggest things that were changed under Joe, I think he was saying, like, in the past, we weren't involved with the engineering, so we get nothing out of it besides being the bank, where if we're the engineer or the oversight, we get, it's like a 4% of the collection. So you're actually, our time is being paid for.
Records and reports.
Yep.
Yeah, and was it under Joe? Do you remember that when we required that under the bridge and culvert aid?
It was.
I think it was.
Joe was here.
I didn't know if it went farther back, but I know that was a big deal because all these municipalities were just like, here's the bill. And you're like, whoa, we didn't have any oversight or review of it. Before we finish the bottom of the page, if you go to the very, very last page, Carrie put together a really nice sheet that starts in 2018, talking about our equalized value, which you can see we used to be worth 1.3 billion. Now we're worth 2.2 billion. So since 2018, we've not quite doubled, but we've went up about 80%. So that makes your mill rate go down quite a bit, because even though you're collecting the same amount, the number goes down based on that. So then if you go to your property tax levy, we went from 8.6 million to 13 million. Most of that, 3 million of that is borrowing that we've increased over the years. So that's probably the biggest. So we did highway note in 2021 and then really highway note in 2025. So what I want to point out here is how, if you look at our mill rate, so in 2018, we were at $6.38 per thousand. At our max, we are at $7.41 per thousand. So 2022, we had a very high mill rate, and that it butts up against what we started doing at highway with $2 million worth of borrowing. And then eventually now 3. If we do everything that we're recommending, excluding at the 70% for the library, we'd be at $5.83. So we're still below the 2024 number. We're way below 2023, because in 23 and 24, we went down 97 cents and 80 cents. So now we're saying to increase by 19 cents, which is the same increase that we did in 2022. The question is, do you go up the extra? Like if you do a different percentage for the 70, it may be, 585 or 587.
So
depending.
that 583 that you talked,
Yep,
that doesn't include the borrowing levy, does it?
it includes
does.
everything.
It
This
does.
is the total levy.
So
As you can see, the equalized value makes a big difference. So when everybody talks about mill rate throughout the state, it's not a comparable number. You have to look internally and then base it on your value of your homes. So for example, say ours is $6, so it's easier. My $200,000 home here at $6, say I pay $2,000 in taxes. If I take my same $200,000 house and put it in Chippewa County, it's now worth $600,000, but my mill rate would be $2 instead of $6. And that's why when you look at Chippewa, their mill rate's $2.13. And everybody goes, why aren't we at $2.13? Well, their houses are valued at 3 times. So they're paying the same tax bill as we'd pay over here. It's just our homes aren't valued the same as they are over there.
We had a lot of tax exempt land.
Well, that doesn't help either, but if you just look at
our
homes.
citizens, they're not going to compare their tax bill with Chippewa County.
No, what they
or
do
anything
is they look
else.
at the mill
They're going
rate.
to look at last year.
Well, that too, but they look at mill rate and they go, why is Chippewa $2.13? Well, I just explained their homes are valued at 3 times as much. So
But
my
even
tax bill would still be $2,500.
with this analysis, though, we borrowed the extra $1 million for highway,
Mhm.
and their taxes are still going to go down.
No, they're increasing by 19 cents. In 2024, they went down 80 cents. 2023, they went down 97 cents. This year, they're going up 19 if you
Cents.
budget as is. If you change, the only real change right now, there's two changes large changes that would affect this. One, your library. Like you said, if you go to 80%, it goes up a penny or 2 pennies. If you go to 100%, it goes up 4 pennies. So that would be between 21 and 23 cents increase, depending on what you choose there. The other one is you could make it go almost down if you take that $1 million increase and do it over 2 years.
Put over 2 years.
You could get it down to probably 6 cents or whatever. If you took out the whole bridge and culvert aid, you'd be negative because that's a 12 cent increase alone.
But if we spread that $1 million out, we're gonna pay an extra $18,000 to $20,000 in interest.
You're going to pay a lot more on interest.
And we're gonna have that again next year.
You're still going to.
So it's gonna be compounding.
Right,
That's
we're just
why.
gonna dig a hole.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, if you look at our history, yes, there are always going to be the individuals that make the call or you have coffee with and they go, oh my gosh, my tax went up $100. But if you look historically, we've had much higher mill rates. We've had much higher increases. We've had a lot of decreases. So in general, all the work we're doing and all the things we recommend for the budget, we don't hear a mass outcry. We hear the individuals that are going to say it, whether it goes up or down. The biggest determiner of what your bill was going to be, and Lynn answers a lot of these questions. If you live in the the Phillips School District, that went up significantly based on the referendum. You look at Prentice's school district, that went up significantly based on the referendum. And they had one where they did like a reval on the referendum, and it made it go up another $100 bucks, $200 for every individual. So plus they're looking at another referendum.
Prentice is gonna have another one too.
Yeah. So you have to be really careful. Like, what you have to do is manage that number for us. And people can't look at it and be like, oh, that's going to make mine go up 10%.
We get
Because-
blamed for it. though.
Right. But it like a 10% increase on, let's say, Nick's Town of Elk that the county does is only like my bill is $2,500, 2,000. 10% of that you only multiply by $400 or $500 because I also pay the school district, which is my largest portion. I pay the municipality and I pay tech college. So we're only talking about 25% of my bill that actually increased by 10%, 400. So I'd go up $40 a year. Not saying that's not a lot to some people. That's not it's, you don't take the 2,000, multiply it by 10% and go, you're going to go up $200 because I don't know what the school's going to do. I don't know what the tech college is going to do. And I don't know what my Town of Elk's going to do. So that, again, when we're looking at it, you got to focus on 25% of it.
Schools aren't subject to the same,
Not
le-
anymore. So
levy rates that we
the
are.
Vanna White happened last year where it took out, yeah, that's what they call it. Like, so you can take out commas, periods, it's called Vanna White. You're doing certain. Haven't you guys, that's what they call it down at the state.
Never heard that.
The Vanna White veto. So you take out certain stuff to make a new sentence. But so what happened is they took out some verbiage that allowed per child increase. I think it's $458 forever. So they can go up to
400 some years.
forever. Yeah.
Not forever, 400 some years.
Was it 400 years? It was like, so it was,
There was a
Yeah.
limit.
they have the ability. So really what it is it would be like us. Right now we have a levy cap. If they remove the levy cap, that doesn't mean we're going to raise it by a unlimited amount. It's what do we need to do the job successfully? You guys are voted in or out based on your decision making. Right now we have a cap. The schools have ultimately their cap has been removed. That doesn't mean your taxes are going to go through the roof. It's not like, oh, collect 100%. You still have a school board. You still have budgets. You still have to figure out what you're doing.
I would like to point out, I think, I've heard lots of comments on our roads being improved and for our levy to go up whatever percent there you have, is just incredible for what we've done to the roads. But what I do hear is, how soon are we gonna do this road, and this road?
We can keep going up.
But I'm saying, but for what we've done with our roads, I think that's pretty impressive that our levy has not increased that much.
And I will say I heard the same thing where it's like, I understand we're going up 20 cents, but look at what we did all of W. You're looking at, D got a little chunk, but we're moving forward on a lot of roads. It takes time. I mean, you're not going to double our levy just to we don't have the crew to do it either. So any major changes before this goes to board is really what this discussion today is focused on. I'm 5 minutes past my timeline for Doug. I was told 10:17.
I guess the only big thing is whether you're gonna pay the debt off sooner or extend it.
And in the budget, you have it paying off this year.
Yeah, we have it.
And I think
I
that's the
agree
way we go.
100% with that.
Is what?
I'm
paid
on
off?
board with. leaving
Pull
it
the
way it is.
Band-Aid. Let's just
Exactly.
do it the year.
Paid off.
Because if we extend it for a 2-year period, we're gonna borrow that 3.1 again next year. So then we're at 4 point something million. And then it would just keep climbing,
All right,
do it.
so everybody understands.
Yep.
And when Nick says that he doesn't get a lot of calls complaining about the budget, that's because those of us that are elected get those calls and we get the face
So I
to
said your
faces.
coffee time.
Lynn gets
your-
it when people come to pay taxes, they complain to the tax collector,
Mhm.
but it's not her fault and they all understand that. But we get it out, we get it.
And
out
usually
there.
a lot of them like that are kind of on up. We discuss like, look at your tax bill year over year. Here's the areas that really, the school was a big one. The revals,
School went up this last
the tech
Yeah.
school went up 17% last year. So that was a big one to everybody. And when there's a reval, when like Town of Fifield, when they went through it, they were a boisterous group when they got their bills.
Right now, Harmony.
There you go.
Revale.
Yeah, they're having the board. meeting this week. Got a lot
I
of
feel it was a
phone
killer.
And when a reval happens, your tax bill will most likely go up in general. But then the next 8 years, when you don't have a reval and everybody around you is doing a reval, yours goes down because you're starting to pass the pie on to the next group. So it's a cyclical cycle, ups and downs. Okay, so I hear no majors, nothing to change. Library
I
we'll
understand it.
discuss
For now, anyway.
as a board. We'll discuss the library in more detail.
Okay, we'll move on to D then, so Doug can not get too antsy. Resolution to implement county 2025 capital projects to be financed with short-term debt. Do I have a motion to approve?
That's a
Motion by
resolution here
Politic.
somewhere?
I'm sorry, what?
The resolution here,
Yeah, it's
Trying
in
to
the
find it.
packet. Kind of in the middle.
Grove Highway. This is. Implement county capital. Approved.
I think it's that one in your left hand there. Nope. Alan, back up. Are you looking for the resolution?
It should be fairly.
You've got your fingers on it, I think.
The
Keep
top,
right there.
right there.
Right there?
Yep.
Okay.
So this one would line up with what we just talked about with our debt for the small projects. So it gets back to, we've always done some highway stuff because that was 5 years ago. That's 400 in, 400 out. But then it also talks about the small projects that we're including.
Because this is figured into the budget.
Correct. Yep.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Polachek made the motion, but I'll take you for a second. Okay. By Polachek, second by Erickson to approve. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of approval signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
No, that's the next one.
700,000 for road maintenance. That doesn't seem like a whole lot.
That's the old, so that's their road maintenance that we,
Took out of their
right.
levy.
They also have some more in their levy. This is just what we borrow for.
So every year we do a 300,000 for a 3-year note. And then this was several years ago, we took 400,000 for the high cost placement out of their levy and did it as funding. So every year we do 700,000 that is automatically highway for construction work.
So it's more of operating, but we don't have the operating capacity, so we borrow for it, which it's already in the budget. It's not above and beyond.
You're gonna add numbers where the yellow is?
Yeah, okay, the clerk's handing out the copy of the resolution on the agenda.
That's the next one, yeah.
Number
You
5.
still have to vote on the prior one.
Oh, we passed it.
Did you pass it? Oh, okay. I knew there was a first and a second.
No.
Well, it's here. I was just gonna wait for the next one before I waddled over there.
Oh, what she's handing out just has numbers where
No, I took them all.
the X's were, where the numbers were unknown on our packet.
So this one, originally we approved this project of the salt sand shed, which is next to the salt shed out at by the airport. And we were using the $300,000 a year that we've been holding in building fund at highway. So what happens is they have a cap of 300,000. They would spend 50 or 60. We would get a resolution that said, oh, they should get $128,000 to go in that. We'd put 50 in. The rest would go in their general fund, in their highway fund, not general fund, their highway fund. So they started doing this project. It was approved by everybody to do the salt shed over 2 phases. Well, phase 1 came, they spent all $300,000 to get it started. Then phase 2 came, but the amount that went in it year over year because of the type of winter we had was much less than anticipated. So how that building fund gets reimbursed is like when your state vehicles do stuff, when certain things, so storage of stuff from the state. And because we didn't have a high impact winter, the number was way below average from what we normally have. So that fund is at, I don't want to call it zero because what it is, we depleted it, we used it, we didn't take from their fund balance. What we're recommending is when we approved the parking lot project, originally we approved $150,000 for each parking lot, the normal building and the courthouse. With highway doing a lot of the work, it's come in way below what we estimated. So we have money in the capital improvement fund to use to make the pad so that they don't have to wait a whole nother year to finish the project, because they can't put the canopy on until you put the pad, because if you put the canopy, the equipment that they bring in to put the pad, you can't use a dump truck, so you have to have an extra piece of equipment, and we don't know what the cost will be next year. So they're requesting at highway to do the pad right now while the asphalt plant's here and they're ready to go, because they've been doing W in our parking lots for the 65,000 using the capital improvement fund. So
Could be asphalt.
yeah, to do a 6-inch
Wasn't this the
pad.
project where the contractor was not performing?
No, that was the shingles on the building where we had to get help with that.
I'll make a motion to approve this resolution.
I'll second it.
Motion made by Erickson, second by Hallstrand to approve this resolution. Any further discussion?
And so people know we're not double spending the parking lot funds. We know that's going to come in less. So
If it gets done.
Yeah, that would be,
you said it.
that's part of the discussion. Is it on American Asphalt's schedule right now, or
Yes,
were they waiting
yep.
for us to approve this?
It's on
So it's on there.
Yeah.
So hopefully it'll get done before they move the plant.
by Friday. Yes, even though technically it's
Okay.
Shh! Don't tell people we did stuff in front of the resolution.
Just because it's on their schedule, we can still cross it off.
Yeah.
Okay. No further discussion regarding this. All those in favor of approval signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution passed. Okay.
I only got one back.
There's one right next to us.
He's
There's a
got
whole
two.
bunch.
Doug's got two.
I'm just waiting.
Okay, next item on the agenda. Atkins contract review.
So they did not come up with the updated contract. So we had the original, like I said, chief deputy and myself went to their meeting, had a great discussion of what's our responsibility, what do we want the responsibilities to be, what the future looks like. And so we are waiting on them to give us an updated contract. So at this time, there's really nothing to review besides, like I said, we're having good conversations. Ultimately, we'll probably have to have a closed session or negotiate a contract at the next, before the budget's completed.
Any
questions?
further discussion or comments regarding Catkins? My only comment is I'd like to see what Ashland's doing. I'd like to talk to somebody up there.
That's what I said too. Like, I don't get how they're.
Okay, next item on the agenda, number 7, Buck Tussle, Cell Tower expansion update. And then Mr. Barkstrom, you wanted to bring
Yeah, I
forward
had
something
a-
on BEAD?
Yeah. I just want to, for my own information, I got this from Private Counties Association, BEAD letter of intent due October 1. So my question is, and then before my printer wanted to eat it, I got a notice on what. I didn't try number 2, but anyway, this was the payouts on all the different projects. And it had Edgerton Hospital, Unity Health. It was all health, Muslim Community Health Center, Wisconsin's health. So who does the letter of intent for these BEAD projects?
The PRC, PCR, what is it?
Do we have any
Crystal-
influence on
Crystal
where these
Rose.
projects are going?
Northwest Regional Planning, we have a committee, and I sit on that BEAD committee.
Pat, yeah.
And we have had a preliminary meeting here with 2 providers, Buck Tussle and Nervado. I can say that because it's public record. But they will have to come to us now
Yeah.
and
We don't-
say,
it's
we
not
would like
us.
to partner, because the BEAD funding has to be done by a participating county. So us.
So this letter of intent is done by Northwest Regional Planning?
No, by the telcos.
By the telco, with us being an endorsement on there.
Yeah, so they come, the telco, whether it's the 2, like Jeff said, would come to us and say, here's our intent, here's our BEAD project, will you endorse it? And so we've had
Is
nobody.
there
come
any
to us.
target projects in Price County?
No public ones yet.
Nothing that they're willing to necessarily talk about, because the PSC is still defining what used to be called census blocks, but areas that are underserved or unserved. They say they've got that, but they haven't necessarily released it yet. So until they release it, I can say that I believe, I'll make an assumption here that there's probably 2 large projects in Price County that
Well, there is.
will be under consideration. I would
Right,
think
the telcos would have to come forward.
they would
with
have to come
those.
to us. and
We're
say,
aware of them
The
looking at
telcos-
planning.
Are in process of reviewing this, and we don't need to nudge them.
Correct.
They are well aware, and Northwest Regional Planning sent out an email this week with the counties in their 10 area represented area, when the next county board meetings are, so that they can meet these deadlines to get their grants submitted and get their letters.
That
And
deadline's
there's
coming up
public
quick.
participation. There's a whole bunch of things that are going on. I would anticipate that we will be hearing something from providers, maybe.
A lot of it depends on your infrastructure, which we're about a year or 2 out from having a better shot at some of these BEAD projects, because there are several. Taylor County, for example, they already have a good loop in place. So when you go for BEAD funding, you can say, look, I already got the middle mile. I only need $1 million to hit these 10 or
The last
100.
mile, they call it.
Yeah, so I need $1 million and I'll hit 100 homes. Where if we said, hey, I want to hit these 100 homes in Pike Lake, it's going to cost $8 million, because you got to get from Fifield or from Minocqua first. So with Bug Tussle, Norvado's doing a lot of work. They're putting in those foundation miles, middle mile. So the telcos are well aware of the BEAD. We're aware of it. I'll bring them forward the second we get a request, because they get additional points this time.
towards their grant. So it has to be a partner with a county. All right.
Yep.
So all the counties were listed and mailed out to the 11 providers that could apply for BEAD in this area in Price County. And we wait until they reach out to us, which I'm certain.
Well, it sounds like the players are at the table yet. It's just a matter of timing with the PSC getting their information out, right?
Yes. In this first round of BEAD, they're focusing on fiber. The next round, they'll be focusing on a little bit less than fiber, so maybe some wireless. Third round, it will certainly be wireless.
Yeah, and when they say first round, it's not like first round's done after 1 month. It could be a 4-year first round. Like they may do multiple openings,
Within the
lets.
first,
Yeah.
within the first round, right?
So we're not responsible for writing these letters?
Only if the telcos come forward, because it doesn't good, we can't support any project. We don't have a project. We're not the project creator.
Kind of like our letter of supports that we've given in the past
I just
for
thought maybe the
PFC.
county would have some influence on a target.
We
project.
will.
We will, and
We got to get a project first. Nobody's come forward with a project. We don't create projects. Telcos do. Unless we want an independent.
the Public Service Commission was kind of preempting those and saying this would be a good project for somebody. So they were, as in the past, you could bid on census blocks, which were just really a goofy checkerboard. And so now they're grouping it saying, this looks like it would be one good project. As an example, the stuff in Southern Price County that doesn't have fiber to the home yet would be a good project. The stuff in the northern part of the county outside of, Park Falls, the Butternut,
And
Ashland
we've
County.
seen
There's-
like the Southern Price County one been a good project for 3 times now. Because we've had the open up for the census blocks, which what was that program?
That was NTIA.
No, well, that one, but what was the first one that they all dropped out of now?
Oh, RDOF.
RDOF, then NTIA, and now BEAD. So we're on our 3rd round for that group.
That's all I had.
Okay, we'll still go with the Bug Tussle cell tower
Yeah,
expansion
so
update.
I haven't heard much from them. Obviously, they have a lot of paperwork things to do. I did participate or sit in on this. Sawyer County was doing their meeting to approve. They had a $16 million project. The reason I sat in is they've already contacted a radio company for their law enforcement because that's their big thing. So what theirs ended up being is if they did radios and their own towers, it was $2.7 million, I think. But they also had to maintain those towers for every year. And if they went with the Bug Tussle portion of it, it was like 1.8 million or 2 point something. But that's just all the equipment. So on both projects, they had all the equipment. On one project, they had no towers, and one project they had towers. They postponed their decision for 2 weeks, so they'll be doing it at their regular meeting. At first, it was definitely like, let's do our own towers. We want to be in control of it. We want our own access. Towards the end of the meeting, I think that's why it got postponed, because it was like, whoa, it would cost us no tower money, no maintenance money, plus we'd get the 60 basis points, plus they would climb it all for us, plus they would split some of the cut. It was kind of like, is the risk, kind of like we had that discussion where it's like, yeah, we could do this, but is the risk and reward applicable?
So you're talking about Taylor County,
Sawyer County.
Sawyer County.
Andy
Okay.
Alvarado. yeah.
Okay, the same day we had our board meeting and passed it, there were several other counties that Bug Tussle was
Yeah, and
looking at. Do you know how they went?
they all went pretty well. Marathon County voted no, but they used cash. So they were only looking for 5 million. And they had a PSC grant that matched it. So they had to come up with some of it. They decided they didn't want to do the bonding and they want to be the loan to Bug Tussle, which you'd think would be a higher risk. But either way, that they voted
did.
no. Yeah, they did. They're going to do it there internally. Most of the other ones, I believe,
Six
passed.
of the 9 passed it the same day we did.
And they were
Marathon County was a meeting that evening, and they decided to do it in a loan or cash.
That's for their additional spending. The original one was bonded, right?
Yes,
Right.
correct.
And I think
Iowa County, I can't remember where.
I
they
think it was
ended
for
up.
postpone.
Was it
yeah,
Iowa
one of
County?
them was postponed, and Taylor County was something else.
They passed.
Yeah.
Taylor was passed.
Yeah.
But either way, the project's moving forward. I will say, listening to Sawyer County, Mitch and Scott and Andy didn't have a different message. It wasn't like, oh, over there they're going to do it in 7 months, and here it was 12. It was same message, same discussion. So it was good. It was interesting to watch their board discuss it. Pretty much looked like a mirror or, a video of ours. It was same questions, same concerns, same answers.
So now that we have a path forward, we're gonna do the towers and everything, and part of that equation was equipment that we're gonna put on for our
Yep.
emergency services.
Yep. So I've talked
So
to.
do we need to start planning for that?
Yep. So I've talked to Chief Deputy Hahn and Carrie. So I got the contact information from the company that's doing Sawyer counties to have them competitively bid against Northway. It's not Northway anymore. It's something else. Somebody bought them, but it used to be called Northway. So Northway and some out of Eau Claire. Gemcom sounds right. Two companies, we're going to have them come in and make a proposal saying, give us these. So Sawyer County, I'm glad I saw theirs because they got these maps that said if you go on this tower, this tower, this tower, you'll have this coverage. If you go on these, you'll have this coverage. Here's what we recommend. Here's the equipment you need. So they come up with a plan for you. So all of next year, as these towers are being worked on, we need to start working with a company to come up with our plan on what we're going to go on this.
So do we have to, that's next year, so we're budgeting for next year right now. Do we need to?
No, I would say this would be a 2026 budget
26,
item. So it'll be a decision making in 25, 26 will pay for it. So when Carrie and I were talking about it, it's about $1 million of equipment, right? If you just say, we want to do this right, we want to update everything, we don't want to piecemeal it. And that's what Sawyer County's saying is we just want to be up to date, ready to go, be able to maintain.
And our existing equipment is not gonna fall apart in the meantime?
No, we'll be fine. Same with, that was a discussion at Sawyer, if it's that bad, how are we going to last that long? We'll continue to limp it along just like we've been. So say it's $1 million, $1.5 million. What I was talking to Carrie about is I would not rip the Band-Aid off on this one. This is one of those that if you put in place, say you spend the $1.5 million, I would do it over 5, 6, 7 years, even though you're paying the interest. This is something you pay as you go, right? Why raise the levy in 1 year? You'd raise it by 2 cents for the next 6 years. Every year just stays at 2 cents rather than 40 cents in 1 year or 60 cents. So and again, we can have that discussion, but it's the way I look at this project is every year we're going to be using that system and people that are being served by it would be paying for that system. If we do it over a long term, then we start maintaining it and we can maintain that number for the cost of that product. So that'll be in next year for 2026 through whatever project pay. We could also rip the Band-Aid off and get it done too. But we are reaching out. So that is the plan starting January. I'm not.
Next year's budget.
Yep. 2026 budget. Yeah. But next year's discussion.
Anything else regarding Buck Tussle?
No.
Committee members? Nope. Okay. Move on to agenda item number 8, monthly vouchers. Looking for a motion to approve.
I make a motion to approve.
Motion by Hallstrand,
Second.
second by Polachek. Any discussion? No discussion. Calls for a vote. All those in favor of approving the vouchers signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Okay, and number 9, date of next meeting, October 1st. We talked about this at the last meeting. Is there any issues with October 1st since then? Hearing none, we'll set the next meeting date as October 1st.
Did you want 2 meeting dates or just one?
I'm sorry.
October 1st.
so you can put the ad on.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, why we need to? What am I missing?
I don't know, just going into the budget process, if you want to know what your meeting dates are going to be, or just go with October 1st and then set the next one?
Oh, just for November's?
That's covered. I just didn't know if you wanted to set the next one out.
What is
Yeah.
it looking like in November? Let's
Um,
throw a date out there. It won't be the 5th.
The county board meeting is the 12th. So I'm guessing you're gonna need something before the county board meeting?
This isn't a highly controversial budget, so it's not.
You know, a week before.
The 7th is open, that Thursday.
7th.
Well, actually, that whole week is open.
No, the 6th is full.
What is, the 6th is open enrollment, yeah,
What
okay.
month are you talking about?
7th of November? Is that Thursday? Put that
So
down.
The
as
7th
a-
would work, yeah.
Okay, so November 7th, October 1st and November 7th?
Does that work for everybody, at least tentatively?
November 7th?
Let's go with November 7th. Okay, next item on the agenda, closed session announcement, motion to adjourn to closed session pursuant to the exemption in Wisconsin State Statute 19.85 1C for considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the government body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility, and for the purpose of county administrator performance review, and then there'll be a motion to return to open session.
I'll
So,
move to adjourn to a closed session.
motion made by Barkstrom,
I'll second it.
second by Erickson. All in favor? Signify by saying aye. Any opposed?
All right, so I'm gonna shut the meeting off. We're not gonna come back online. There's nothing left on the
No.
agenda to let individuals know. So thank you.